Hey, what's up? Ian here, and I'm back with another review video, and this time I'd like to talk about this CVJ Konoka. I already unboxed this, so if you haven't watched my unboxing video, I'll leave a link somewhere up here so you guys can go check it out. But in this video, I'm just going to focus on my sound impression and review of this CVJ Konoka. Now, a quick recap before I begin. This is a 1DD plus 1BA plus 1 vibrating driver plus tuning switches IEM, and the retail price for this is just $19 US. It's available on Linsoul's website, so if you guys are interested to find out more, do check out the link down in the description below. Alright, so let's begin. First, let's talk about accessories, and it comes with in this fancy box like so, right? For 19 bucks, this is a pretty fancy box. And on the inside you get a cable, and this cable I would say is pretty standard cable, pretty similar to KZ's cable, so nothing to shout out about. And also the ear tips as well. Ear tips are fine. I mean, they're standard ear tips, nothing to shout out about as well. I mean, 19 bucks, I've got no complaints. Okay, so that's for accessories. Now let's talk about design and build quality of these. They looks pretty nice. I mean, in terms of the look, it looks nice, contemporary, clean and simple. And what I like about it is the transparent window that you can see the innards of this IEM, and also the frosted faceplate over here, which gives it more of like a mysterious look to it. But on the inside, you can see very clearly on the inner shell the drivers and everything else inside. And in terms of workmanship, these are actually pretty well built, right? And I don't see any glue stains or any smears or anything like that on the inside. So very well built in terms of workmanship. Okay, now let's talk about sound. First, let's talk about drivability for this. And I've been listening to this at about 40% volume, yeah, around 30 to 40% volume, and they're pretty easy to drive. I've used it with my iPhone, iPad, my Android phone, and my dongles and my DAPs, and they seem to work well with all of my gear. So very easy to drive. Now let's talk about my gear recommendations, and I recommend I have two types, right? So with the vibrating driver turned on, I would recommend gears that are warm and fun, things like the iPods and the Sonys, right? Sony A55s. And with the vibrating driver turned off, right, then I would recommend something like M15, something more neutral, more balanced. Okay, so the tuning does affect the sound, right? As in the vibrating driver does affect the sound, which I'll explain later. Okay, right, so that's for gear recommendations. Now let's talk about tone and timbre. And as I mentioned, right, there's vibrating driver, and that affects the sound. And with the vibrating driver turned on, which you can actually turn it on the switch here. Okay, let me just focus. So there's a switch here that I think switch number 2. Okay, when you push it up, it will turn on the vibrating driver. Okay, and once that is on, it will change the tone and timbre for it. It becomes warmer, it becomes more heavier in note weight, and overall it sounds more fun and more casual. Without the driver turned on, then it will sound a little bit more balanced, a little bit less than balanced, but yeah, a little bit more lean, and overall sounds thinner and more balanced, I would say. So it's more natural kind of a note weight and tone and timbre. Okay, so that's for the tone and timbre for this. Now let's talk about the technical performance for this, and these are unique with the vibrating driver. So this, to me, right, in terms of technical performance, is more of a novel feature, right? And something like the Apple AirPods spatial audio, very similar to that. So this vibrating driver gives another dimension in sound, which affects the sound stage. It affects the detail retrievals, the overall spatial size and depth and width of the sound stage itself. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good for gaming and watching movies. Especially I like watching Netflix on these earphones, and they sound really good on watching movies, especially action movies. So I mean, it's a novel kind of feature which I like when I'm watching movies and playing games, but not when I'm listening to my music, okay, which I'll explain why later. So for soundstage, with the vibrating driver on, it's got this like a holographic kind of soundstage. Doesn't sound natural to me, but yeah, it's there. You can hear all around, and because it's vibrating, right, it actually vibrates around your ear here, so it gives you another third dimension, or another sensory to your listening experience. Okay, so for that, I would say it's pretty nice for watching movies. Now, when I turn it off, right, then the soundstage becomes natural. So, right, so without the vibrating driver, the soundstage sounds naturally wide, and it's got nice height as well, and good forward type of soundstage, right, and it's got good landscape as well. So that's for the soundstage, pretty good for 19 bucks. Now, in terms of sound separation and detail retrieval, they are pretty good. I mean, this has got one dynamic driver and one balanced armature. So in terms of sound separation, it's pretty good. I can, identify where the instruments are and where they are placed in the soundscape. So pretty nice as well. And the detail retrieval, surprisingly, I didn't expect this to have such good retrieval in terms of the nuances being retrieved. So yeah, for 19 bucks is pretty good for that. But if you turn on the vibrating driver, it distorts everything else. So with the vibrating driver, I don't hear much details. The details and the imaging and the sound separation becomes distorted somehow. So that's why I say I don't really listen to my music using the vibrating driver. Okay, then there's resolution as well. The resolution on this is not bad. I mean, for 19 bucks, this is actually pretty good in terms of the sound reproduction from these earphones and the overall resolving capability of them. Okay, so that's for technical performance. Now let's talk about the sound. All right, the sound signature. So I'll post the graph somewhere up here. Okay, and as you can see from the graph, all right, this is without the vibrating driver being turned on. This is actually a pretty nice graph, except for that little peak somewhere at the peanut gate, right? But other than that, this looks like a pretty nice graph. The bass is pretty close to Harman, right? It's not above Harman target, and to me that's a pretty nice bass, right? When I listen to it, it's pleasant, it's there, it's not shy, is enough, sufficient, it's quite balanced out, okay, and it's got good extension as well. As you can see, that line extends really far beyond the 30k or 30 hertz, sorry. So very nice sub bass, okay, and the mid bass is also pretty nice as well. It's very smooth and pretty fast mid bass as well. It does not impede. It does impede a little bit, but yeah, overall a very nice bass shelf. All right, pretty balanced bass shelf is sufficient and is enough to give you that lower support in terms of your tracks. Okay, the bass support. Now in terms of the mids, it's really nice. It's not too recessed. I mean, it's recessed just a little bit, but it's just nice for you to feel the presence of your instruments, like the pianos and the trumpets and the violins and all that. So very nice positioning of that instruments, and they sound clear, right? That's one thing good, and that's why the details on this, retrieved on this, is actually pretty good. Okay, so I would say, yeah, mid sounds pretty good on this. Now, in terms of male vocal and female vocals, right? The male vocals, they sound okay. It's not overwhelming in terms of the presence of the male vocals. They've got good tone, good note weight as well. They sound engaging and enough low end to support them. At the same time, enough treble as well. The treble sounds quite naturally rolled off, and overall male vocal sounds pretty okay, right? Now in terms of female vocals is okay. They actually sound energetic. They've got good sparkle to them, and they sound pretty natural. The only gripe I have about female vocals is they sound a little bit harsh, right? A little bit too spicy, a bit too hot, okay? And it comes to a point whereby it may be a little bit fatiguing listening to female vocals. That's my only gripe. But other than that, female vocals, they sound nice, they sound present, energetic, engaging as well, and overall, yeah, they sound pretty nice on these earphones. Okay, now let's talk about the treble. Treble is okay. I mean, it rolls off pretty nice, and it has got good presence as well, quite bright. Okay, as I mentioned, my only gripe is that peanut gain. The peanut gain to the treble is a little bit too hot. Okay, and that gives the treble a little bit too much spice, and female vocals, my cymbal strikes and the hi-hats, the crashes, they sound a little bit too spicy, a little bit too grainy as well. There's a little bit of BA timbre on it, and overall it sounds a bit too, I would say, harsh on the top end. Okay, but other than that, the treble sounds pretty natural, rolls off pretty natural on this, and overall it's, yeah, a pretty decent treble. Okay, now let's talk about this with the vibrating driver being turned on. I'll post a graph somewhere up here. Now with the vibrating driver turned on, this skews the entire graph, and this artificially adds on more mid bass, and this mid bass gives the overall sound which I listen to, all right, it becomes more full, right, artificially full, and it is odd, right? It's basically odd when I listen to it. There's a lot of mid bass going on here, and the vibration does travel around my ear. It's not a vibration that I can hear very loudly. I can feel very loudly. I can feel at all. No, I can't feel the vibration, but it mixes into the sound waves, and it sort of skews the sound, right? It makes it more, well, I would say, full. It's a different listening experience with the vibrating driver. So it gives it more mid bass, becomes more thumpy, and the impacts on this is just fantastic. That's the reason why I like to listen to movies on this, right? I like watching movies on this, and especially action movies. The explosion is just very immersive. That impact of the car crash is just there, and that gunshot is so impactful. It's so immersive. So very nice implementation of the vibrating driver that gives us, the listener, a third sensory to our listening experience, and also gaming as well. So as I'm playing games on this, the overall game experience is very immersive as well. So yeah, I actually enjoyed myself using this when I'm gaming and, you know, watching my movies. And as you can see from the graph, that mid bass rise is just gives that overall impact different dimension with a physical vibration. Okay, now the next thing is actually the roll off or the trail off of the treble. It shortens the treble, and now with this vibrating driver turned on, the treble sounds a little bit unnatural. Okay, so that's what I feel. So when I'm watching my movies or playing games on this, it does sound a bit unnatural, but it's alright because it's games, right? You hear gunshot sounds, you hear explosions, footsteps, and car crashes and all that. It's okay to sound unnatural, right? Even then, you won't know or notice about that unnatural treble roll off. But when I'm listening to my music on this with the vibration on, then that would sound a little bit unnatural. For example, my cymbal strikes, hi-hats, they sound a little bit unnatural and a little bit rolled off, right? So yeah, that's for the treble when the vibrating driver is being turned on. Alright, so that's my overall review and sound impression of this CVJ Konoka. And now I would recommend this for playing games and watching movies. Okay, and for 19 bucks, it does sound good for listening to music as well. as I mentioned, right? It's got good technical performance with this one dynamic driver and one balanced armature. I wouldn't use the vibrating driver for listening to my music, even though sometimes if I want to have that unique listening experience, then yes, I would use this, okay? But for my listening experience for music, I will just leave it as default, okay? And for this, I'll give this earphones a 3 stars out of 5 stars rating, right? So pretty good. In terms of value for money, it's really value for money. 19 bucks, you get a good listening experience, okay? It's decent. At the same time, is unique for playing games and unique for watching movies on this, okay? And that concludes my overall review and sound impression of this CVJ Konoka. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and also please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So I hope you guys have a great day ahead, and I'll see you again in my next review. Cheers.